Good evening. I'd like to call the Public Safety August 2025 meeting to order. My name is Lisa Dorsey, Chair of the committee. I have with me Nicole Shimoni and Brian McGinnis. Any announcements? Seeing none, we'll move on. Comments, suggestions, and petitions by residents in attendance regarding items not on the agenda? Sure. Please state your name.
My name is Christopher Day. Common spelling for first name, last name is D-E-Y. I'm going to say thank you all for giving me the opportunity to be here to talk to you. I am a resident of the borough. My wife and I and my young son live at 324 West Washington Street. We're homeowners there. We've lived in the borough for about 4 years. We rented for a couple of years on Wayne Street, and we were lucky enough to buy in the borough about 2 years ago. And that kind of brings me to my point now is we are very fortunate. We have a growing family. I got an 80-pound pit bull that I take around on walks all the time with my young son, who's almost 2. So walking is in quotes, if you will. And in doing that, where we live, we're very close to the Chestnut and New Street intersection. And it's something that, I guess, typical father thing. Until you have a kid, you don't realize this. But now that I go past that area all the time, I've noticed that that intersection I believe to be extremely dangerous. And has concern not just for me, for my son, but for all the other kids in that neighborhood. I mean, that is right near St. Agnes. There's a school bus stop stops there, and there's no stop sign, there's no lights, and the actual pedestrian crosswalk that is painted there is completely gone. I've stood there for many minutes waiting for cars to stop to let us pass, and none do. And that is also, as far as I can tell, the only main street in Westchester where cars are. They go pretty fast through that area because there is no kind of stop there. So we have cars speeding, and then there's no kind of way for that to stop. So for me as a citizen or as a resident of this town with my young son and my dog, it's something that I've noticed I want to bring to your attention and I don't know what the solution is. I'm not here to say we should do X, we should do Y, whatever. I do think, seeing where else is in the town, like some sort of sign of pedestrian walking, notice right away, or just repainting the crosswalk might help kind of slow people down and recognize that. So that's one thing. And then along the similar kind of vein, where we live also on Washington Street is near Veterans Park. Similarly on Washington, people come in that area very fast in the morning. That park is there. There's kids all the time. My son loves to run across the street. We're working on stopping, high five, please don't do that. But I would love to see some signs or something to acknowledge like, hey, slow down, there's kids here, things along those lines in and around the park alleys, as well as on Washington Street. Just some stuff that I've noticed, but I don't know, again, what the solutions are. I don't know budgets, but something that concerns me as a parent, not just for my son, but also for other kids in this area and stuff. Because, again, people drive too fast in and around the borough, and especially that Chestnut and New Street area. That's really, it's concerning for me. And again, with St. Agnes right being there, I can't imagine I'm the only parent who has this kind of concern. So that's all I wanted to bring to your attention. I'm happy to take any questions from you guys if you had any for me. Otherwise, that's all I have to say.
I will just share with you that speeding in general, and the how dangerous it can be to walk in various areas around the borough have been raised at least 3 or 4 times in the last 3 or 4 months, if not more.
Okay.
So I do think it's something that we need to take back and address. I mean, not just on Chestnut Street, but we heard about Bradford Avenue. We've heard about Walnut Street. The list goes on and on. So I do think it's something that we need to look at. So I appreciate your comments.
Awesome. Great.
Your neighbors have reinforced that.
I appreciate that. Well, thank you all again for your time tonight, and have a good night.
Any other comments?
Hi, Lisa Kearns, 312 West Biddle Street. He lives in 300 block of Washington, West Washington. I live in the 300 block of Biddle. The park is in between there. And what he's talking about are the things that I've been talking to you about in the last few months, particularly that intersection at New and Chestnut. As he said, and thank you, Sean. We did go to Sean to find out and Lisa, how do we go about doing something here? Chris even talked about traffic lights or speed bumps, but even before all of that or any of that, which will take time, just the simple painting of the pedestrian crossing and a couple of signs that say, you know, yield to pedestrians, because that is on Chestnut, one of the few that is 2 long blocks and it goes downhill and they do go very fast. And you do have a lot of children there. Same thing in the park or in Washington Street. Just a couple of signs there saying, you know, slow down, children at play, because that's at toddlers park. That's little people. So the neighbors would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Anyone else with a new comment?
I do have a new comment, I think. Hi, Shannon Mandine, 711 South Matlack Street. I'm here about Pearl Alley, which just bought 18 West Market Street. So it's between that first block of West Market Street and the parking garage. And I think it's probably the most disgusting alley in Westchester. I put in a couple complaints about a mattress that's sitting behind one of the commercial buildings there that has been there for a month and a half now, 6 weeks. There is just, it slides down into the street and then somebody comes and sets it back up again. There's trash throughout it. It's really kind of too narrow for anyone to actually drive once you get down to where the co-working space and back behind Market Street Grill. And it's filthy. It's disgusting. Most of that is commercial space. And I think it falls on those commercial people, not on the Westchester trash carriers. To be really fair to Westchester, I really think that somebody needs to go over there and start handing out some tickets to those commercial building owners or something like that. I mean, I bought there. We would like to do some alley beautification to try to create a nice patio for some of the tenants to sit in. And there's just a real problem over there. So
Thank you for sharing. We will share that as well with Public Works.
I do have one comment regarding the painting. Sean, I know that Public Works used to paint lines at night. They did it during summer. Could we reach out to Don about maybe reissuing painting lines again?
And to address council about the routines for painting, so people understand how the team is deployed, when work is done, how much work is getting done, and that might help inform the conversation. So when things do come up, we do have some ability to change the priority, change the pattern to address sore spots that come up. And that's what we can do in this case, and we've done before in others. But that'll be a question I think Don are best equipped to answer.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to the monthly reports. Westchester Fire Department?
All right, good evening. Greg Whitmer, Assistant Fire Chief, here on behalf of Fire Chief Mark Scanlon. So for the borough in the month of July, there was 57 emergency incidents to bring to a year-to-date total for the borough of 426 incidents. Department-wide for the year, we're at 980 incidents. Our members have logged over 6,800 hours of training so far this year. If we scroll down to the significant incidents, to note, on July 8th, there was an apartment fire on South Matlack Street. That incident was investigated by the Chester County Fire Marshals and the Police Department, and there was a subsequent arrest as a result of that investigation. In East Bradford, on July 11th, there was a house fire on Centennial Drive that the department responded to with great support from Good Fellowship. It was a very hot and humid day, and we thank them for that. And then also in West Goshen on the 19th of the month, the department responded to a small fire at Pierce Middle School. The ladder truck does remain out of service. The last update we provided was the planning for the bumper to get designed. The bumper is in production, and we anticipate completion of those repairs in the near future. And then, Lisa, for your awareness, in the Finance Committee, Nicole and Brian were here. We did discuss the purchase request for a new rescue boat, inflatable rescue boat, as well as a ATV as part of our capital budget. So pending any questions.
For me, anyone in the audience have questions on the report? Okay, seeing
Thank
none,
you.
thank yous. And the Westchester Police Department.
Hello, I'm Josh Lee. I'm the police chief. And before I get started with the report, I heard a couple complaints about traffic, and I spoke to the one gentleman outside. Just know that we are looking into it. We're currently doing 3 different traffic counts for different places in the borough where we've been made aware of some issues by residents. One of which is Chestnut Street, one which is Marshall Street, and one's I think Washington Street. So just know we are on top of that. But moving to the monthly report. I'm excited to report that it's August. We know what happens in August. The start of the Westchester University fall semester is almost upon us. We're excited to welcome back all those. I see the smiles. We're excited to welcome back everything that the university brings, especially the students and the volume of students. But before I get into too much of that, if we could just go over the monthly numbers. Nothing crazy, nothing crazy number-wise in July. You'll see things like mental health and alcohol violations are rather steady. We've had a drop off on robberies, but we only had 2 robberies 2 months ago, and we're down to 0 2 months in a row. Not necessarily a significant dip, but we've gone 2 months with no robberies. You'll see assaults and burglaries are relatively flat. And there is an arson that I'm reporting last month. I spoke a little bit to it last month, or I mentioned it last month. But if you look across the line, that's kind of where we are as far as monthly numbers. Yes, ma'am. Well, these are July's numbers.
It's August.
would-
It was August.
That would be classified as a burglary, and you'll see that number next month. I am kind of glad that you mentioned that. I would not have, but I'm glad that you mentioned that particular case was just another example of how not only are the Westchester police officers that you see every day doing their job and doing it well, but collaborating with other agencies in minutes and hours over the course of one evening to bring such a terrible case to a resolution. So it's terrible that has happened, but it's a very good example of how well things work in Westchester and in Chester County.
Thank you. I would agree. I saw a number of state troopers on Sunday evening on my street. I happen to live on New Street.
Yeah, we welcome them, but we'd rather it not be for stuff like this, obviously. But when it does happen, we're glad that we have that working relationship for sure. So if we move to the Westchester University fall semester. Now, we all know what happens when the students come back, and forgive me if I use the word kids, I tend to say that, but we all know what happens when the college students come back. My phone rings off the hook with complaints, and the phone in the dispatch center rings off the hook with complaints. But I did think it's important that I talk to you before that happens to set some understandings and some expectations, because I know my phone will ring off the hook, and it should. But we expect to see, with the return of Westchester University students, an increased volume of foot traffic. Particularly, that's going to be up on Gay Street and Market Street in the CBD and in the southeast quadrant of the borough. We know that. That's where the majority of the off-campus housing is for Westchester University, and that's where the majority of the after-hours entertainment is for Westchester Borough. So the connection and the connecting streets between the CBD and the southeast will be busier with foot traffic. Along with that foot traffic comes noise. People are going to be happy and boisterous, or sad and boisterous. I promise you they will be loud, and there will be extra people in the southeast. Because they'll be having such a good time, and I'm using air quotes in my head, there will be increased incidents of drunkenness and disorderly behavior that surround that increased consumption of alcohol. We know that this will happen. Please also know that the Westchester Police monitors data and stats weekly, monthly, and year to year. So we're able to track what happens as a result of certain actions. We know that when the students come back, these things will happen. We're able to predict that the week before the start of classes, which this year is Thursday, August 21st through that weekend, the week before the start of classes and the week after the start of classes are the busiest 2 weeks of the fall semester. Complaints from residents will be at their peak, I promise you, over those 2 weeks, as they should be. So you can expect to see from the Westchester Police increased action. Every year you do. I'm doing a little bit better job this year of explaining it ahead of time, but you'll see increased police patrols, especially in the evening and overnight hours, and especially in those locations where we know they'll be highly trafficked. Gay Street, Walnut Street, Market Street, Matlack Street, the east-west streets in the southeast, Minor Bernard, Union, Dean.
Alleys.
Yeah, right. The alleys in the southeast, Keystone Alley, all those alleys. I know the neighborhoods well. We'll be out there. We'll be out in front of the 500 block of South Walnut Street because we know that intersection of Walnut Street and Lacey Street is a busy intersection. Expect that we'll be focusing our enforcement and increasing those numbers for violations like public drunkenness, disorderly conduct, public indecency, things like that. So know ahead of time that we are out there, but certainly if there is a need to call us, do not hesitate. That's what we're there for. So as far as the return of Westchester University, that's my bit. If there's any questions there, I'm happy to answer them. Okay.
Good luck.
Thank you. If we move on, I'd like to now give an overview of the calls for noise and the 12-month review. I think it was in August of last year. It might have been September of last year that we first started really talking about this, and I've been promising you a review. Here it comes. Know that all those 12 months we've been, doing the best that we can. We've been using the data to intelligently inform where we go and when we go there and what we do when we're there with our patrols. Excuse me. We've been processing disruptive conduct forms through our records division. Our records division has been in touch with the codes division, codes enforcement, housing division upstairs here. The housing division has taken the ball and run with Mr. Metrick's assistance through the court process, and currently, I believe, in even looking at revamping the point process. But know that that process is working, and we're certainly doing our part in that. We go to the next slide. We'll look at the numbers. What we see in blue are complaints of noise where no citation was issued. What you see in red are complaints of noise with an accompanying citation or noise citations. It's no surprise to me that the tallest red line is in September of last year. You'll also look at months where we wrote more citations being March. That's the start of the spring semester, but for some reason in the springtime, it's not quite as disruptive. It's not nearly as disruptive. And you'll notice a bump in August. You'll also notice among the highest reports for noise are in September and October. Again, not a surprise to us. You'll see a discrepancy between, or you'll see a gap between those complaints of noise and the actual noise citations. And the reasons for that is, frankly, because not every complaint is substantiated. Sometimes the noise is over by the time we get there. Sometimes the noise complaint surrounds something like mowing your grass on a Sunday, which is a violation. It's not something we very often will cite for because most oftentimes people aren't aware of those types of violations. Several of those complaints, you'll see a percentage that are for things like children playing, for construction noise, either within or outside of the guidelines set by Borough Code. But the majority of the complaints, especially the majority of the complaints in September, are noise complaints. And we'll go to the next, or noise complaints surrounding disorderly residences. Go ahead, ma'am.
I am surprised, though, that October has more complaints with no citations and such a significant drop in citations. I hear what you're saying, but it still seems very counterintuitive to me to see that much discrepancy and changes amongst the two metrics.
Some of that is because in October, on particular days like homecoming, there was increased amounts of calls for noise that quite frankly, we were not enforcing because it was Saturday afternoon, it was homecoming. That's going to explain a lot of that. Some of that is because those complaints were at nighttime and we weren't able to be staffed up to handle those complaints as quick as we would have been in September. But the overwhelming majority of those are calls that have come in a very acute period of time in October for homecoming. If we go to the next slide, we'll go by quadrant. This too is no surprise. The number or the most noise citations, 43, I believe, were written in the Southeast. That's no surprise to us. It's no surprise to me. More than half of them were written on the Walnut Street corridor. And the same thing, if we look at the next slide where there's calls for noise but no citation issued, about 180 of those calls came in the Southeast, and about half of them were on the Walnut Street corridor. That's all I have on that review. Certainly, if there's any more questions, happy to answer them.
I guess my only question back to October, will you staff a little differently this, knowing that some of it's from homecoming, and I understand your philosophy on that one. But will you staff a little differently, knowing that there might still be a residual, October's a very nice month. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a great time to be out at 12 a.m., enjoying life, which I don't do anymore because I'm old and I go to bed at like 9:30. But nonetheless, are you considering staffing a little differently in October?
Yeah, yes. Obviously, we're constrained by what we can afford to pay for. One of the things we look at when we know the college is in session, but historical data doesn't show necessarily a need, is the weather week to week. And if we're expecting good weather on a weekend or warmer weather than typical, we will try to upstaff. But I promise you, I'll take a close look at it. But I don't want to be married to one particular answer right now, other than yes, I will look at it, if that's fair. Thank you.
Ann Carroll, 506 South Franklin Street, and also speaking as chairperson of CASE. I would like to know whether we are proactively not waiting for citizen complaints for noise, but when our patrol cars are out, are their windows down so that they can hear the noise and proactively become the citer? That's question one.
You want to ask both and I'll handle both? Do you want to ask both and I'll handle both?
Oh, maybe, yes. And the other is, we talked about it before with this committee and maybe Smart Growth with regard to the High Street changes in signals and crosswalks and all of that jazz. I would like to know what either council has done or what the public safety folks have done to communicate with the public safety folks at Westchester University to retrain their students in light of the changes that have been made. I have observed the early group, which are, the band and the football team, et cetera. And not that this doesn't happen all of the time, but they are banging on the crosswalk signal as though the more times you push it, the faster it will change. That's one. They do not understand, some of them, that there is a crosswalk signal and they should wait for it. And now we have green lights, which means we do not stop, I don't think by law, when somebody just decides to walk across the street when there is a signal there. So where is the education of our group of students coming in, many of whom are not city dwellers and don't get this whole thing? Now my two questions are done. Thank you.
That was 3, Ms. Carroll. Question 1, we do proactively enforce the noise ordinance, especially on the times where we know or expect that there'll be an increased amount of noise. September is one of them. That's when you'll see officers out on foot patrol and on bike patrol more often. And a percentage, I don't know what, I'd have to look, but a percentage of those are officer initiated calls that we're citing. And we're the witness and the complainant and the prosecutor all in one for them. And frankly, it makes enforcing, those types of enforcements are much easier to get through court than ones where we need residents to also show up at court and testify. So yes, we are out there doing that. As far as the crosswalks, everybody could stand to have an education on traffic laws when it comes to pedestrians. Pedestrians tend to think that they are immune from all traffic laws. But know this, we will secure some grant funding we do every year to enforce and educate for pedestrian violations, similar to the way we do DUI checkpoints, we do pedestrian enforcement, and that'll be a part of what you may or may not see, but we'll be out there doing that this fall and winter. I hope that helps a little.
Yeah. Also, Daryl, didn't you hand that crosswalk etiquette over to the Westchester committee, and we were gonna they were gonna put it in with like their packets or something? Do we need to check on that tomorrow night and confirm what they're doing with it?
Oh boy.
In a prior year, the university had received a grant to supply the 2 officers that handed out the crosswalk instructions. As of months ago, when I forwarded the information on to the university lieutenant, they were unsure of the grant funding for this year.
Okay. Well, we can also check with the committee, because that I wouldn't think that we'd have to pay for extra people to hand these out. There's other ways to create make a flyer and get it handed out to students and things. So, it's, yeah.
Is that it with that part? Okay. If we can move on to the next slide, I'd like to give an update on police department staffing. This is I come to you in a unique position here. We're all familiar with the process that we are in that started last year with the hiring of new police officers. And I'm not going to get into every step that we've gone through. You're familiar enough with that process and how it's worked out. And I was very excited 2 months ago to come and report that we successfully found 2 great candidates that we hired. So 2 thumbs up there. In July, the last day of July, was the last day I accepted a resignation of one of our officers. One of our officers resigned to move on to take care of family, a very, very positive separation. Nonetheless, I am sorry to see that officer leave. But what does that do to the Westchester Police Department? That one officer that we're now short of our complement of 44, in addition to 2 officers that are out injured on duty with serious injuries. One who has a torn ACL, and that ACL is a ligament in the knee, I'm told, and that ACL requires a second surgery that is now setting that officer months behind to get that officer back. Is another vacancy we have, in addition to another officer, a sergeant who was involved in a shooting in April, and during that shooting, he tore his rotator cuff, for which he had surgery last month, and that surgery is expected a 6 to 9 month recovery for that. And then finally, we have an officer that we hired 2 months ago who's in the police academy, and he's scheduled to graduate from the police academy in December of this year. So what's that do for my department? It puts my department short 4 officers. That's 4 less officers that would otherwise be out patrolling. We have a list of candidates on that civil service list. There are 4 candidates left. Of those 4 candidates, none of them have the police academy training. And what does that mean? That means that if we were to send an officer to the police academy, we would have to wait until January, because that's the next time the academy starts. Assuming that candidate would graduate from the academy, that wouldn't happen until July of 2026. And then that officer would have to be trained, go through the field training program, which is anywhere between 12 and 24 weeks, which means before that officer is actually out on the street enforcing laws and ordinances, we're into likely November of 2026. Fortunately, the civil service regulations allow council to hire, or rehire, I should say, a former police officer. I have a wonderful candidate that is a former Westchester police officer that is willing to return to the Westchester Police Department. I just need council's approval for that. The mayor and I have been in talks for the last several weeks. The mayor is in support of this effort, and I'd just like to give you a little bit of information on that. So that's what I'm doing here. My intention is to come to work session and ask for a motion to approve the hiring of a former Westchester police officer. This officer has in excess of 5 years of service with the Westchester Police Department and has been since his resignation from Westchester, continuously employed by another law enforcement agency in Chester County. He would leave that agency on good accord and return here. He is a very highly trained officer, was a wonderful officer and detective when he was here, and he would really round out the department and provide immediate relief to an understaffed department. My intention is to provide more information by way of email to council on that, and then come next week with everything I would with any other candidate to explain the situation to you and ask for your help next week to get this officer hired. And he'd be able to be hired and brought in the door in September of 2025. If there's any questions on that, I'm happy to answer. Okay. Without further ado, I apologize for taking so long, but this is the best part of the presentation, and it is overdue. I promised this a month ago. Other things got in the way. I'd like to ask that Jamie Weiss come up. She is our new police social worker. Jamie has been with us since June. Jamie has hit the ground running and has taken on the challenge of really starting this police social work program. And she's going to give you a little overview of the program. And I'm very, very proud to have her on board and proud to turn it over to Jamie now.
Thank you, Chief. Hi, thank you so much for having me. My name is Jamie. Jamie Weiss. I am the new police department social worker. I am a licensed clinical social worker, so I'll explain what that means in just a minute. So about me, so I've been working as a licensed social worker for about 4 years now. I just moved to the area from Washington, D.C., where I investigated allegations of child abuse and neglect, and also completed 3,000 supervised clinical hours to obtain my clinical licensure. So during that time, I've had experience working with victims of domestic violence, individuals struggling with their mental health, individuals dealing with substance use disorders, and everywhere in between. I have also responded to children and adults in crisis, fatalities, people under the influence of drugs and alcohol, and often worked in tandem with the Metropolitan Police Department's Youth Division detectives, as well as their patrol. So I won't read word for word all of this, but basically what can a police social worker do? Crisis intervention, de-escalation. I can conduct on-scene assessments, referrals. So any referral needs, any community needs, I can refer them to the proper place. Any follow-up, community outreach, collaboration, as well as documentation. So the Westchester Police Department, as of right now, we're breaking it into basically 3 categories. The first is crisis intervention. So I will be co-responding with officers to the scenes of mental health crises and attempt to de-escalate the situation alongside of them, hopefully to take a more holistic approach to law enforcement and making sure that people who are struggling with their mental health get the help that they need, as opposed to just being arrested, because that's not always the most productive thing for them. I will also correspond to domestic violence incidents, calls for child abuse and neglect, and other calls where a victim of a crime may need any support or services on scene or after. I can follow up with them. The second part is referrals. So if I'm not here because there's only me, and the officers may be at the night shift, resolve a situation, but they still have some lingering concerns. An example, if someone has concerns about someone's living conditions. I can follow up with that person on a wellness visit the following day to see if they're interested in any additional services or supports. And then the third part would be officer wellness. So I plan to execute wellness initiatives for the police department, provide support after a critical incident, and connect police department employees to additional supports and resources upon their request. So if they are interested themselves in mental health support or whatever it is, I can connect them to those resources, but I am not their therapist. That would be a conflict of interest. So making sure that they are covered in the best way possible. So the benefits of having a police social worker, so I can stay on scene with community members, which allows the officers to go back in service and respond to other calls. If the situation is deemed safe by the officers, I can spend a little bit more time with that person, getting them what they need. Ongoing collaboration with various community agencies. So I've been meeting with different organizations and agencies across Westchester, as well as other organizations in the county, just to make sure that the residents of Westchester and East Bradford are getting connected to the appropriate resources, and we have the best options available for them. And it's much easier to pick up the phone and call and refer when people know who I am. And so I've been trying to really build those relationships. The PSW can also provide support to incidents like death notifications, hopefully not, but completed suicides and child abuse and neglect. My current shift is Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. I'm pretty flexible. The officers know that if they need to reach me when I'm not here, they can give me a call. And if I'm available, I'm happy to work with them. That my email is up there, so please feel free to reach out at any time if you have any questions or concerns. Or if you have any questions or feedback now, I'm happy to take questions.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Welcome, Jamie.
Thank you.
I felt like
Thank
I
you.
should clap.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're happy to have you.
Yeah, I'd like to just say one thing too. There's some good opportunity too for integration with our building and housing department, because our staff is going in on inspections and we're seeing living conditions, and we might have some of the same concerns that perhaps maybe even the fire department or the Good Fellowship might have when we do visits for other reasons. And it would be great to connect somebody more directly to those resources. So I'm looking forward to that.
That's a great example. I have been working with the codes enforcement officers. They've referred a few individuals to me that I've been able to work with. I actually responded out yesterday and was able to get someone some support. So that's a great example. And you know, the calls don't always have to come through dispatch. You could reach out to me, and the officers have been wonderful and very welcoming. And I could pretty much grab any of them as long as they're not, busy on another call, and they're happy to go with me and check out something or do a wellness visit with me.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Comments?
With that, the Public Safety Police Department report has concluded.
Thank you. I think we have one. Do we have a question, Lisa?
Lisa Kearns, West Biddle Street. Actually, just a compliment for the chief for bringing that position online. Really important. And to Jamie, I know from my work in the nonprofits in this town that she has been out there pounding the pavements, introducing herself, handing out her card. And I know they have felt comfortable enough with you to really talk about, we need to call her sometimes. In fact, one of the nonprofits almost called you the day after, because we had somebody that we were trying to figure out how to help. So obviously, however you approached them was very well received. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, moving on to old business, approve the July 2025 meeting minutes. Any questions on that? Okay. Oh, Good Fellowship, sorry. I'm sorry.
I will be very brief. Hi, Brian Sporer, Captain, Good Fellowship. So for the month of July, we had 158 calls within Westchester Borough. July tends to be our slowest month guess a lot of people like to go on vacation. We don't have our student population, and most people lay low to kind of avoid the heat. So generally, this time of year is our slow season as we get ready for the fall to revamp. So there's really not too much excitement in our report. Just a couple things to note, some goings-ons within Good Fellowship recently. As Chief Lee was talking about, we are preparing for our student population to come back. Fall is our busy time. So we're kind of using this time to kind of get ready, get prepared for a very busy fall ahead. Our paramedic class did their graduation last night. So I believe our paramedic class this year had 18 students, 5 of which are Good Fellowship EMTs. So they are now Good Fellowship paramedics and are on the road to beginning their field training. So same faces, just new level of care that they're able to provide the citizens and visitors of Westchester. A handful of months ago, we talked about getting an ATV to use for big events within our coverage area. I'm proud to announce that that vehicle is now in service. It went in service earlier this month. It had its first deployment to Exton Community Day up in West Whiteland, where it had to take care of one patient. And we're getting ready to present it out to Westchester in the upcoming fall events like Restaurant Festival, Christmas Parade, Chili Cook-Off, and all that good stuff. So questions, comments, concerns? Cool.
No questions. I'd just like to congratulate the Good Fellowship, the police department, and the fire department for a successful National Night Out. It was very well attended. Great weather too.
Mm.
So very
Good.
popular.
Perfect.
Good
Thank
job.
you.
Any comments from the audience? Okay, now we will approve the July 2025 meeting minutes. Any questions on those? Okay, and new business. Motion to approve Domestic Violence Center of Chester County Purple Ribbon Campaign, seeking permission to hang purple ribbons along Gay and Market Streets for Domestic Violence Awareness Month in October. It's again something we've done every year. I didn't have any questions on this. Anyone? Anyone in the audience? Okay, that would be 3-0 for next week. And B, approve for the Westchester Library book sale on October 4th. Keith?
Evening, Keith Karowski, Director of Parks and Rec. This one's easy, straightforward. The library is holding a book sale. They'd like to close Lafayette Street between High and Church to accommodate some food trucks and to add some activities there. It's a block party permit. It's one block, straightforward.
No questions? Questions from the audience? Okay, another easy one. Any other business? Seeing none, we will adjourn at 7:01. Thank you.